Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today I'm going to work on a reel from Chris in Virginia, and this is a Shimano Charter Special TR Triton 1000 lever drag. It's a beautiful reel. It's got 4 ball bearings in it. We'll show you how the reel is made, how it comes apart, how to service it, keep it running for a long time to come. So let's get started. First off, it's a lever drag, so whenever you service a lever drag, put it in free spool. See what's going on there. In this case, that handle is still turning. That shouldn't be, but well, we'll adjust that while we're doing that as well. Okay, we're going to start by taking off the exterior pieces and parts. That involves removing the screw that holds the cap retention plate, and well, that'll enable us to remove the nut cap that's holding the handle on. That's a 10mm nut underneath, so break that, and then, well, usually when you break it, you can remove the rest by hand. With that off, we can take our handle off, and, well, clean that up. I'm going to use a light steel wool, which is a buffing steel wool. It already has some cleaner on there, but let's go ahead and put that on just to show you. This is a chrome polish that I use. It's actually an automotive chrome polish. It's got a little bit of grit in it, which helps to take off some of the old film and the like that's laying on this. And overall, this is a beautiful reel, well-deserved reputation, and comes in lever drag and star drag. And well, if you keep it maintained, it will keep you fishing for a long time to come. When I take my pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray, so I know where to find them. Chris included a Carbon Tex replacement washer for the reel, so we're kind of on our way now. We're going to remove the cap for that, and then we're going to take off the preset adjuster assembly. You do that by removing the inner knob, and there's a spring on here. And this is a good place to tell you to take pictures as you progress. Take them at critical junctions, and that way, if you get lost, well, you'll have an opportunity to look at the pictures and say, ah, there was the orientation, or that was where that piece went, or looks like I did this before I did that. So you reverse that coming back in. Okay, with the preset off, you can flip that lever now. And I've removed the inner race or ring for that free spool lever. There's 2 nuts, 2 screws, one on each side that has this stop cap, and the inner one is a tapered screw hole for a flat-headed screw. So just mark those. This is the inner part of the ring. This is probably why it was sticking. There's some old grease here. That grease can slow down and not allow the piece to travel completely. So I'm just going to use some penetrating oil here, kind of clean up that old grease. And a lot of what you do when you're servicing a fishing reel is cleaning, inspecting, and well, getting rid of the old lubrication, putting on new lubrication. There we go. And that goes into my parts tray. There's a little click lever on the back here. There's a little notch here that ring is going to ride in. You just need to pay attention to both of those. This is a spring-driven piece here, so you need to know when, I think that's spring-driven, how to load that and when to load that. And then the only other piece on this side plate is a Teflon ring. You can leave it on. There's nothing to do there in terms of servicing it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws. Shimano has always been very good about this, the side plate screws here. I've worked on some of their bigger reels, and wow, they give you a hand to work out by the time you're done. So let's go ahead and take this off, and that'll open up the gear side for us. And when I do this, I like to make sure that all of the screws are the same size, so when I take them out, I lay them on my desk, and if something is not the same size, well, I make sure that I note the hole that it was coming out of so that I can replace that in the same hole, and not worry about something being too long, too short, or the wrong thread, or the other various configurations that they have with this. Well, while I'm doing this, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you do subscribe to the channel, please use the notification button. I cover all kinds of reel repair and service and the like on this channel, and I'm sure there'll be something there for you if you like it. Alright, the screws are out. We should just be able to pull the plate out. This plate's got two things going on top of it, so take a picture here. You have a race for the braking system, the gearing assembly underneath. You have a pinion gear, a bearing, an anti-reverse system. Take that picture right there. Well, the piece that he came for was in the spool. So let's work the spool assembly first. Usually you get an indication here. Yeah, there's an indication. It's hard to see on camera. It says unscrew. This is a reverse threaded screw. And usually it's hand tightened. So just work on it. Make sure that you note the brakes there. You don't want to lose those. And this is your pressure plate. There's one of the, as I said right away, and there goes one of the brakes. So I'm going to remove both of those brakes and put those in the parts tray for safekeeping. On the back side of this, we have the pressure plate. And we want to clean that out. There's a little bit of old grease that was in there. But other than that, that can go right back into the assembly. Put off to the side for a moment. Take a picture here. So we have a bearing that can come off the shaft. That bearing seats in the pressure plate. We have a spring that's going to go between the bearing and the other bearing here. And this is this is actually in excellent condition, but he had asked me to replace this with a Carbon Tex one, so we'll do that and we'll return the original to him. Next, we want to remove the rest of the axle shaft. Be careful, again, these things kind of want to have a life of their own here. That's a pin that's going to help you seat the axle shaft into the case. You'll see that there's a broad slot here. That's where that's going to go. 4 screws are holding on the back side of this. They're small screws, so be careful with them as you go to remove them. And again, I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to lay them on my table here to make sure they're all the same. My experience says to me that they are. And of course, as soon as you start trusting your memory, something goes wrong. So it doesn't hurt to do this each time. Get yourself in that rhythm, and that'll help you to identify any inconsistencies in the parts and pieces. That's 3. There's one more. And that'll enable us to move the back and get to the bearing on this side. Okay, the 4 on the side, I'm going to leave those right there. This whole assembly will pull out now. And what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to poke the bearing through on the other side. Alright, these bearings are sealed, or shielded bearings, not sealed bearings. You don't need to do anything with the other side, but in case you did, there's a little metallic washer, then there's a couple of tension washers, and then there's the bearing. That's what I wanted to get to. I'm going to oil that bearing. I oil bearings, I don't grease them. To me, the grease winds up contaminating these an awful lot. Check to make sure that the inner part of the assembly is clean. Reinstall that assembly. You can put a little bit of grease onto the shaft here. Grab the plate. Align your screw holes and just tighten that back up. Well, while I'm doing this, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, maybe you're working on one and you're having some issues with it, maybe you've got a problem that you just can't seem to identify, if you leave those questions in the comments section, I will try to answer those for you. Generally, I will answer those in the morning, so if you're leaving one the night before, just be patient and you should get an answer as I kind of work those questions before I go into the shop. Okay, there's 4 of those screws. That's number 1. This is number 2. And the spool really is this assembly here is really the big deal, if you will, with the whole assembly of the reel itself. This one's a little unique because it's got a level wind in it. Most of the lever drags are not level wind reels. They're generally built for bigger fish, heavier lines, and while those fights tend to tear up worm gears and line guide assemblies, so they're left off. There's a couple out there that would compare with this, I guess. You have the Penn International Gold Series that has the lever drag in it, in addition to the round bait casters. But this one's a nice reel overall. It's got a good reputation, well deserved. Okay, that's this side. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to oil the bearing. I'm going to flood it. Bring the bearing in. And seat that. Next up is the spring. And now I can go get that Carbon-Tex washer that Chris included here. He got it from Smooth Drag. It says by Smooth Drag. SmoothDrag.com is a place where you can order these. Also, you'll probably find people are selling these on eBay as well. This is a carbon fiber one. Now, it's not going to give you any more max drag. We have this conversation frequently. It's the same size as the other washer, so it won't give you any more max drag. Max drag is a function of surface area. But these are more wear resistant, and because they're Carbon-Tex, you do not need to grease or oil them. So I'm going to put this right back in and make sure that Chris gets this one back. And well, we got one more bearing we want to oil. There's a couple of grease prints on here, so let's get those off. Bring that over, down, and remember we had a reverse screw on this, so to tighten, this one's going to go in the reverse manner, and you hand tighten only. You don't need to go any more than that. We've got 2 more things here that kind of fell off along the way. One of those is that post goes through the axle shaft, split the difference. And then I think what we'll do here, I'm going to turn all the idler gear and the light just to make sure that it's okay. This one's totally clean. So a drop of oil on the inside ring, which is driving the worm gear, is fine. A little drop of oil onto the click mechanism, and we can reinstall. Now if this was dirty or in some other way compromised, you certainly would want to go ahead and remove that side plate before you reinstall this. This needs to reseat. There we go. You want to make sure that you're flush on the case here before you go any further. And of course we have those 2 little brakes, so let's put those brakes back on. Those brakes are going to slow the spool rotation, and if you want to speed up your spool and you don't want the brakes, well, you can remove them. They're easy enough to remove. They basically fell out, but if you wanted to do that, you could. This should just lift out. This is the inner race for that. Next up then, we have the pinion gear, the side plate ball bearing, the main gear, and we have that anti-reverse dog. I'm going to leave that in place. That anti-reverse dog has a spring attachment. There's a little indentation in the dog here. There's a little kind of a pressure cap that's on that stud holding the back side of the spring. want to clean the case, I'll use penetrating oil for that, just to get rid of what little old grease is in there. And I'll use a paper towel to do the mop up. So overall, the reel is very clean, and I'm kind of surprised that he wanted to replace the gears, but the drags, but I guess he's got his reason. Didn't show any wear. Okay, there was a washer that just fell off the back there, for those of you keeping score. Going to oil that bearing, that's the side back bearing on the side plate. Put that in. Check your pinion gear now, make sure that that is free of all greases and debris and the tracks. If you like, you a piece of line there. I don't think that came from this reel. Pull through, make sure all of that grease is out of the teeth. Now this one I like to put into the pressure plate side because there's a little bit of a meshing issue. If you try to put it into the main bearing, usually it's a little bit more difficult to get in. So I like to put it on this side and just make sure that it seats into the holder there. We've cleaned up the main gear. Do the same thing. If you notice that there's any old greases in the teeth, go ahead and pull through. Clean the face. Now this one only has that anti-reverse dog as the anti-reverse. There is no clutch. There is no anti-reverse, instant anti-reverse, if you will. And what you're going to get on this one is you're going to get click, click, click every time you have that rotation. A little bit on the face. Bring your gear in. A little bit on the shaft there. Bring your gear in. And then when you go to seat it, you need to pull up on the tag end of that dog, like this. Push in. That'll make sure that it's seated properly. And sometimes this cap will tend to hold that if you can install that cap on there without going too far. I always watch it because when you tend to put this together, you usually lay it down and it pokes this thing through and it unsets the anti-reverse again. Oh, we need one more thing here. We need the race. Race just sits inside the case. Okay, now we can bring it in. Make sure that your dogs are all set. Want to line that up. Mesh your gear and your side plate. That's how you put the case on. And we've got the 5 side plate screws that go on next. When I do this, I like to kind of, I don't go in a circular pattern. I'll go triangular here. We'll go right side, come up top, grab one for the bottom on the other side, make a triangle pattern. This is to keep equal tension onto the side plate so that you don't bind it. A lot of folks make that mistake with spinning wheels, and spinning wheels tend to trap a gear or a shim or something in there, and they can't understand why the case doesn't close properly, and it's usually just some tension that was unmerited. Okay, got the last of the side plate screws here go on. And before I put the rest of the hardware on, I do notice that there is some film and the like from fishing journeys. I'm going to use a rod and reel cleaner here. This is the Penn Precision Rod and Reel Cleaner. Kitchen scrubby, And just run that on the inside of the case to break up that film. While you're working on your reels, it never hurts to make sure that you clean them up. It's the opportunity with the pieces and parts off. Anyway, next up we have the ring. I like to mount the ring or mount the lever onto the ring. It doesn't have to be firm, but you want to get it into that slot that we were talking about before. Before you tighten things down. Just like that. The two with the plastic bumpers on it, they go left and right. A little trouble seating that one. I'll come back to it. Maybe I should have put the middle one in first. How's that? If you don't line these up correctly, you're going to feel that the screw's not going in easy. If it's not going in easy, back it off. Don't force anything. Just take your time. That should help align both of these now. There we go. Better. Let's back this off and get that reset. Feels like it's just not going in square. That's better. There you go. Okay. We have our alignment now. Bring it over to the point where you are in free spool. You're over that free spool knob. You're going to find that you have the ramp here with the two pyramids and a square. This is where you want to line up the pyramids into the slots on this reel. You'll feel it come down, and it's almost always going to work out when you lay it over to the side here. Sometimes you get the situation where it doesn't go into free spool because you tried to install it, say in the middle of the ring, and when that happens, you don't align those pyramids for your free spool. Okay, let's see if we're free spooling. We are. And now let's go back, put the handle on. Cleaned up that handle nicely. The nut cap goes on next. And really, there's only one more thing to do, and that's to service the pole and give it a test. 10mm nut to tighten that down. If your flat side of the cap is parallel to the hole for the retaining clip, it usually lines it up. In the case it did. And now we'll just take the retention screw, put that on, and then go over and do a quick look at the pole there and the worm gear. Okay, the pole is set to the side here. Let's go ahead and remove the cap. And in this case, we have a metal pole cover and a metal pole cap. Let's see if we can't pop it out here. Tapping it generally will make that work. It is a little tight. Yeah, you can see we've got a lot of accumulated old grease in there, which means it's not turning very efficiently. So wipe all of that down. And make sure you check the shoulders This one's got dried grease on the shoulders as well. And again, that will inhibit the performance of this reel. Once you do that, a little drop of oil back into the carrier. Let's go ahead and reassemble the pawl then. Bring that in, and if it's not flush with the bottom of the carrier, just hold pressure on it. Turn the reel and you'll feel it pull in. That's how to know you're in the track. And go ahead and do the start of that by hand. Tighten it up. Don't over tighten these. Just snug it up. Oil your pawl, or your worm gear. If the worm gear was dirty, you could remove the worm gear, or you could take a rag, place it on there and crank. That generally would resolve that. Alright, let's give it that test. We're in free spool. We've got the reel turning free. And what are we noticing? We're noticing that the handle is not turning this time because we've cleared out that dirt and grease. Let's go to the first hit. The reel is turning. It needs to be reset. Let's go to max drag. Yeah, we need to put more pressure on that. When you go to adjust your lever, always bring it back to the free spool mode before you turn your adjuster. Check the free spool. It's working beautifully. First strike, yeah, we got more tension on it. Max drag, yeah, we're holding tight now. So that's pretty much set as it should, and you can hear that mechanical dog just kind of clicking away. So there you go. That's the service of the reel. That is the Shimano Charter Special TR1000 lever drag. How to take it apart, service it, and keep it running for a long time to come. And we've also included how to upgrade to Carbon-Tex tray. I hope you've enjoyed that. To our first responders and essential personnel, thank you for your efforts to keep everybody safe. I certainly admire your career decisions and choice and dedication to service. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day and fun times on the water.